Presenter today is Dr. Rajni Shankar-Brown. She is an internationally renowned professor, environmental justice scholar, artist, author, and activist. And it is both a great honor and a great joy to welcome her this morning.
Testing? Yay! Well, good morning. Today we're going to talk about the breath of life, and we're going to talk about prana. And I'm so happy to talk about this topic. I feel like the timing is just right, even in my own life, as I think about our alignment and connection to each other and to the universe that we live in. So prana, as you can see, is very, very powerful. Over here, you'll actually see this kind of mandala, and inside there's an eye, and it lists all of these different beautiful parts of dimensions of life: family, friends, travel, art, work, relaxation, right? Love, all of the different dimensions. And we can think about almost this singular thread, just like a quilt, that is connecting all of the dimensions of our life, but also connecting all of us to each other. Even today, we sang about the spirit, right? As we talked about life and the spirit of life. And there's this universal connection between all of us, even as we think about birth and death. So today we're going to talk about prana, and this is the Sanskrit spelling of prana. And prana is very, very powerful. If you look at the Vedas, prana is actually brought up in all sorts of multidisciplinary ways. And it is the Sanskrit word for life force. I love that, right? Life force, the vital energy that is both in the cosmos and universe, but also the energy that lives in all of us, our heartbeats. Even as we talk to each other, as we sang music today, you can feel energy. And that energy exists in all sorts of ways, from the tiniest plant, you think about the root growing, all the way to the whisper, into the energy of a hug. There are so many ways this energy is always flowing in ways. And it is the breath of life. It is also the energy that sustains us, that keeps us going, right? The motion of the universe, if you will. And it is ancient wisdom. If you look at the Ayurveda, if you look at, the sutras, the Vedas, there was actually a lot of science integrated. And the Vedas will actually speak to this idea of this energy that is in the cosmos, the Mahaprana. We talk about the Mahaprana as being this great cosmic energy, but then also prana that is within all of us. So today we did some breathing. Thank you for that. And as we breathe, breath is very interesting because it is both involuntary. Even when we're not thinking about it unconsciously, we're breathing, right? If we are alive, staying alive. But it's also can be voluntary. We can intentionally take deep breaths. We can actually control our breaths. And breathing is a form of prana. It's not the only form. Sometimes people, I've been to many yoga classes where often they'll relate prana only to breath. And that is incorrect, because prana is more than that. It is this big life force of energy. And it's very much connected to, you all remember the chakras we talked about, right? With chakras and the vortex of our spinning energy, there are connections there as well. And prana is fundamental. It is an energy that circulates in our world. It circulates inside of us. If you think about our nervous systems, all the way to thinking about the complex systems of how our bodies work, there is an energy flow that is happening. And it is also within the universe. And the Vedas describe prana, I love this, as the source of life and energy that keeps all things in motion. It is not limited to physical breath. It is an energy that exists in all forms of life and in our body, mind, and also spirit. That is that thread, right, of connection, if you will. Now, there are 5 core pranas in the Vedas that you can read about, and even in the Upanishads, they talk about the Udana, the Prana, the Samna, the Apna Prana. These would take days, right, weeks, even a year to really dive deep into. But I bring this up because I want us to understand that our old Vedic texts really dissect and go into it both from a spiritual realm of thought, but also from science. They link a lot of science into this Vedic thought, even describing, it's really interesting. In science, we'll talk about things like atoms, right? Matter. And sometimes we credit individuals to naming these things in history, but I always find it interesting because they actually were brought up in very ancient texts like the Vedas, right? They may have been called something different, but they were brought up in ways to understand how atoms work, how all of us are part of stardust. Science so early on that was channeled through such spiritual, beautiful manifestations. And I love that. I think about our kind of cosmic connection to our ancestors and each other. So here, let me pause for a moment. If you think about nature, you think of, we're right now by the beach, right? Beautiful water surrounds us. Even as you think about waves, there's a connection even to moon. You think about tide. Think about the sun and the nourishment we get from the sun. In fact, there's a form of yoga called Surya Yoga, and it is this nourishment that we're calling for the sun to give us. And every day the sun is giving energy so generously. It's not asking for us to return it. It's asking for us to embrace it. The sun actually goes in and gives life to plants. It allows us, if we don't get enough sun, right, we lose out on vitamin D. Sunlight plays a vital part in our entire ecosystem. And it is such a massive form of energy, and it's connected. If you think about biodiversity, all of these different forms of energy are connected as well in this really pretty wondrous way. If you look at old maps, you can often see all of these lines that are drawn, and cartographers would tell us all of these lines on maps have meanings, right? They're connecting different areas to each other. Sometimes they're telling us about the way, even in old maps, you can see wind patterns. But all of these lines on this map of connection are also prana, this idea of how, even if we're living in an isolated place, we are part of something much larger and bigger and magnificent, right? Magnificent. Similarly, our trees. Oh, I love thinking about the complex root systems, right, that exist underneath the ground, the earth that all of us stand on. All of the ways that trees communicate. Science is just starting to reveal the deepness of communication that happens among living organisms, trees, mycelium or mushrooms. Really interesting, and in many ways, a reflection of prana. Life energy being transmitted and shared and in constant motion and flow. Our inner bodies, even as our heart beats, we have veins and blood vessels that are this intricate system working together, threaded throughout our entire body. It's pretty miraculous. So in the Rig Veda, it actually tells us that prana resides in every being. It energizes all of our senses, our speech, our thought, even our wisdom. When you think about multi-generational wisdom, that is a form of energy as well that is being passed. In the Upanishads, we see prana described in its dynamic movement as rising and circulating in all directions. So there's this idea of this vital life force energy that is always at play. It's always in motion. And we can tap into it and expand it, embrace it, give gratitude to that energy and grow it. We also can sometimes diminish that energy. We can also channel the energy both for good and also for bad. And we see that in the world that we live in right now. As we see so many human and civil rights violations rampantly growing, there is energy being put into that, but in destructive ways. What happens when we breathe, when we take that life energy and we expand it with love and for good? Think about the growth that comes out of that, right? Healthy, vibrant, flourishing growth. And so prana, this energy, is something we can tap into, not only individually, but collectively as well, in our communities, in our world. Now, pranayama, you may have heard this if you've done kind of yogic practices, but pranayama are breathing exercises, essentially. And it's really neat because it takes the word prana, right? Prana really being even before pre-existence. It is the very breath of life. And it takes it with the word yama, which in Sanskrit can mean control. Or I like ayama, which in Sanskrit is expansion. I love that one, right? Because then you think about breath and vital energy as expanding. And pranayama, these breathing exercises, even as we did our deep breaths today, there is an energy flow that we are tapping into. If you breathe in, and you're also aligning that with thoughts, really being observant of feeling. I don't know if you've ever noticed when you breathe in, often you're going to feel cool air. After it circulates and you breathe out, that air feels warmer. So even if you breathe in through, try this really quick. Breathe in through your nostrils if they're not stuffy. If they're stuffy, you can do your mouth, right? Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. And you should be able to feel a coolness almost, and then a warmness. So even within that, there's this beauty or exchange of even these polar opposites coming together to circulate and work in rhythmic harmony. And I just love that. Our universe has all of these miracles every day, and prana allows for that to flow and happen. So breathing exercises, we know, can enhance our mental clarity. They can help our physical health or social emotional balance. They can also help with spiritual awakening. So there are many purposes. When we read the Vedas, many purposes to embodying pranayama, breathing exercises in our life with the intention of honoring and being cognizant of the cosmic energy that is both expansive and wide, but also inside of us. So in the Prana Upanishad, it says, one whose prana is controlled and purified, their life force becomes steady and pure. And so there is this idea that when we are conscious of breath, of energy and life force, not only in ourselves, but in others, we will lead a more pure, loving life. If we recognize that somebody across from us, even if we disagree, even if we are on polar opposites of something, is a human with breath and connective energy, we can honor our shared humanity. And right now in our world, you look at so many wars, hunger, poverty, all of these issues, and there's often this forgetting of that shared humanity and a forgetting of our cosmic connection. right? Our human connection that is tied into something much greater than ourselves, prana. So the power of tapping into prana, first of all, physical health. If you think about breath, medical science is showing us now that we are not breathing deeply enough, that most humans are breathing very, very shallow surface breaths. A lot of reasons are creating this. For one, our society now is very, very fast-paced and noisy. We are distracted. For so many of us, especially our youth, they're uncomfortable with being still, with being in a space of slowing down and feeling breath. We're distracted by technology. All of us have more and more things to do, the news, so many things, right, going on. And of course, our technological devices have connected us in many meaningful ways, but they've also added to some of the distractions and stressors. And so we have to be cognizant of that. And pranayama, breathing exercises, can help us with our physical health. When we take that deep breath, opening up the diaphragm, feeling that breath inside and outside, inhale and exhale fully. Science is showing us immediate health benefits. Our blood pressure drops. Our heart rate slows down. We get really good endorphins in the body, right? It can even help to boost serotonin. All of these wonderful benefits just from our own control and intention of breathing. And so pranayama exercises, and there are many, right? Many ways to do pranayama. Sometimes it is, you could try breathing through one nostril. And then you hold it and breathe, exhale through the other, right? So it's inhaling one, exhaling through the other. You can try sitting down in a comfortable position, even on earth, if you can. So when you're in nature, just to feel the earth below you can be really, and to be grounded, right? That goes back to our root chakra we talked about. So when you're on that ground or close to earth, taking the moment to allow yourself to breathe and to listen to the sounds of nature as you do that. There are many different ways to practice pranayama, even adding in mudras, which are hand signals. So often you'll sometimes see people meditating and they're touching certain finger points. And part of that is channeling and being cognizant even of our own body. Because prana flows through all of us, all the way into our fingertips. There's an energy. In fact, if you ever played with magnets, I know actually my daughter, when she was very young, she had a great science fair project she did with magnets and looking at polar magnets and how they connect and the energy, where even if you take a magnet and you put it on top of a table, if you have the other magnet that aligns with it, even under the table, the magnet force can be strong and keep it together. So prana is like that. It's this magnetic force of energy. You can try even warming up your hands like this, shaking them out really good, and then sometimes just feeling this energy build up. And that energy is part of the life flow. And we can really tap into it. Not just joyful moments, but all of the different emotional moments in our life by being aware, by taking a moment to feel as we are doing something. It can be very visceral. In addition to being spiritual and imaginative, there's this kind of juxtaposed dance that is always going on, which I love. Mental well-being, it helps us to reduce stress, improve our focus, and enhance our emotional regulation. So you often might have heard when you feel really angry or you're in a heated conversation, people will say, take a breath. And actually in our Vedas, we have many, many ancient wisdoms that talk about the power of pausing. And in that pause, holding space for breath. Why? Scientifically, we know that improves our mental clarity. even when we're feeling very, very emotional. Taking a moment to allow ourselves to feel and experience, but allowing our breath to channel those energies. That can be very, very powerful. And then also spiritual growth. As we meditate, we can start to tap into prana for spiritual advancement of all sorts. And there's multidisciplinary teachings around this, but it can help us to transcend both our physical boundaries, but also the barriers that we put up. We also often forget to give ourselves grace and love. How many of you have made a mistake at some point in your life and you beat yourself up for it? Sometimes you still feel bad about something you've done, right? That's very human, very human. But sometimes we forget in that humanness to give ourselves grace and love. And the flow of life can help us return to that, right? So even that deep breath and feeling, it's not just about the breath, but feeling the energy run through us. It's like a gift to ourselves. And you can fit that in any time during your day, right? As busy as you are, to take a few moments to do that deep breathing, to feel the energy inside of yourself, that's a gift. When we sang today, I don't know how many of you could feel the energy, right? I told my daughter, I said, do you feel that? Right? As people are coming together, there's an energy flow, and the energy flow syncs up in unison, and there's a power in that. So even when we think about activism, I'll just point out, we can't get too much into this today because of time, but there's a lot of use of prana within activism that was very early on taught. So you think about protests, even the marches, the Mahatma Gandhi helped to lead, right, around SALT with the British, and they did nonviolent protests. They were practicing pranayama as they did that. In the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would take some of that Vedic wisdom and teach it. One of my own mentors, Congressman John Lewis, would even speak about as he marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, police, brutality, violence, all of that happening. And one of the ways that they stayed in that nonviolent mode was to tap into the power of prana, right? That energy, that flow, that breath, to stabilize yourself, to stay grounded, to stay focused, to inhale and exhale love. So here we can see from the Upanishad as well, the self is the essence of prana. Prana is nature, and both are interwoven into the vastness of existence. And that breath continues, right? That energy flow continues. It's always around us, and we can tap into it at any moment or time. Prana is not just an individual life force. It connects all of us as human beings, as living beings. It connects us to the plants, to animals. It connects us and reminds us that we ourselves are part of the universe, and the universe is part of us. We are whole in that sense. We are made of stardust, quite literally. In Vedic thought, the cosmos is made of energy, and we believe in the Vedas that everything is interconnected. In fact, that is also a UU principle. Just as prana flows in our bodies, it also flows in the universe. And we also believe it helps to maintain the balance and alignment of things. There's an energy flow that is really important. In the Atharva Veda, it says prana is the life of all living beings. It is the essence of universal consciousness known as Brahman. And so it is this idea that, again, prana is life. It is life. It is energy. It is cosmic energy. I want you to look at someone near you and tell them, I see you. Look at them again and say, thank you for being alive. I love that. The reality is, as our prana flows, as we exist, we also have agency from this energy every day to live a life with intention, to have positive impact, to build, sustain, grow, nurture, love, community, justice. Prana is at the roots of all of that. Prana is the essential life force. It pervades all of existence. And by cultivating our connection to prana, right, being cognizant, we start to enhance all of these wonderful aspects of our life. And we can start to incorporate practices like pranayama into our lives to help us to lead more peaceful lives, lives that are filled with peace, filled with focus and clarity and connection. And again, there's lots of beautiful pranayama practices. Maybe at a future service, instead of presenting, we actually can sit together and practice some of those, right? There's a lot of beautiful kind of energy flows that we can actually start to incorporate into our lives in different ways. And if you think about a lot of yoga, right, it incorporates its prana very intentionally. Even think about our salutations to sun. There's lots of breathing that is going on with those movements, right? We're honoring the sun. We're inhaling power and energy and prana from the universe, the sun, the galaxies. We're taking that in and holding it with gratitude. And we're taking it and exhaling back into our world, our communities with love, right? So we're doing a lot of that. And the breathing is intricate. And it reminds us, even through our fingertips, we are emitting energy just as we receive energy. What a beautiful gift that is. Through practices like pranayama and really understanding prana, we can all start to live a life that is more peaceful. We can start to experience bliss. When we did my father's cremation ceremony, we sat and chanted Sanskrit chants and Vedas. And a big part of that ceremony is really thinking about moksha, which is liberation. And even as we sat together and we honored my father's Appa's legacy and life, prana, I felt it, the energy that continues on. Even when we're gone, right? This expansive energy of life. Even when we are dust, there's an energy that flows, that it connects all of us in such a loving, beautiful way. So let's wake up every day, take a moment to feel grateful, to recognize our prana, our life force and vital energy. And let's take time each day to also share that with each other. Namaste.